Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. It is the month of May, and I am joined by somebody that I've been looking forward to talking with for a couple months now. And here we are getting to talk. I have Anna, but you might know her on Instagram as Lucero Cosplay. Anna, how are you doing today?
Howdy, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure, and I'm just going to throw it out there right now because I always like to figure out like how did I stumble across this person? How did I find their Instagram page? Especially with cosplayers, it's always like, oh well, which cosplay was it? Which thing was it? And I have to say, it was the transformation, the Usagi like transformation, with the ribbons and everything. That outfit, I was like, that's really incredible and so cool to look at. And I think that was the first one that I like clicked on and liked, and from there I just fell in love with like the other work that you do, and I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you. That was definitely I feel like that was a 2 or 3 year project and a huge labor of love, and I'm really happy other people are excited about it the same way I am.
I always like I see it, I'm like, that's got to be something to have it keep its shape and then also to get into. Like I feel like me and like just putting my pants on or shirt on. It's like I'm a big like lumbering oaf of a person. It's like, oh my gosh, like I couldn't imagine trying to get that type of thing on and like being like, okay, I gotta make sure I don't touch anything.
That's a super fair assessment. I think it's one of those things where there's so many parts to it that together it looks like one whole piece, but it was a couple of months of engineering, but all the ribbons are kind of independent of the suit. So they just feed on and off. So like because I wore this to Anime Expo, because that was a great idea. There's not too many people there.
Right.
Half the convention was just me popping ribbons off to walk around in essentially a pink bunny suit and people being like, "What? Who are you?" And I'm sitting there like, "You'll know in time." Uh, and then finding enough clearance to like put all the ribbons back on. So I had a lot of people joking, and they're like, "How do you get through the hallways?" And I'm like, "That's for me to know, and hopefully you to never see."
Oh my goodness. Well, that's incredible. I didn't. That's a great engineering thing about being able to like actually get like pop them on and off essentially, uh, and then you walking around just in the pink like bunny outfit. Like the first thing I thought of was like it's a Sailor Moon slash Elle Woods mashup.
I wish someone had asked that. Gosh, that would have been a good one.
That's what I'm here for. I bring like the outside the box ideas every time. Tales from the Fandom podcast. Listen to it. You do listen to it. You're on it. But since we're on the topic of Sailor Moon, and I know it's one of your big fandoms. So to kick things off, Anna, is how did you get into Sailor Moon? Like, where like did you get into it from like Sailor Moon Crystal, the classic Sailor Moon? Like, where did you get your start?
Ooh, great question. I was definitely like in the generation of kids that grew up with the Toonami block on Cartoon Network. So definitely watching it there. Oh gosh, I was probably in like I was really young. And then my mom had worked in downtown LA at the time, really close to Little Tokyo, and she had me with her a handful of times. Oh my gosh, what were we doing? I think we were getting lunch one afternoon, and by chance in Weller Court, there was a stage put up, and there were like cosplayers dressed as the Sailor Scouts selling like some kind of diet drink, and if you bought some, you could take pictures with the whole group. And of course, I was there losing my mind, and my mom was like, "We're not going to do this." And I was just sitting there like, "You don't understand. I see them on TV all the time. When else am I just going to see Jupiter having time, like here of all places?" And somewhere in a photo album is a really funny Polaroid of like 5 teenage girls just like wondering what this kid's doing and me just losing it. And I think that was definitely like the moment for me of just like it was a cartoon, but you could see these girls and they were so glamorous and they looked so cool. And I was just, I don't know, something in that moment just had me really enamored with like the series and how great the outfits were and how cool they seemed. Yeah.
That's a great story because it's almost like because you every kid has like the Disney, right? The Disney, like I want to take pictures with Mickey Mouse or with the different princesses, and you know those kind of characters. You have that relationship with those characters on TV, but with Sailor Moon, finding people that are actually dressed up or cosplaying as those characters just out somewhere, that back then like you never would have seen that, and that's just such an incredibly cool story. And I'm just picturing like your mom having to carry home some energy drinks.
We, it was like I have no idea. It was like it wasn't even an actual physical like in a can. They were like these little packets of green powder. And I don't, I wanted to drink one time because I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is what they drink, and it was disgusting. And in hindsight, there's no way this was like a properly marketed thing. It was just like bootleg Sailor Scouts selling something completely unrelated. But I look back very fondly on that, and I hope they're doing well. If any of them happen to be hearing this, you guys rock.
If you're listening to this podcast by chance, Sailor Scouts, that we're marketing an energy packet, please email me because I'd love to discuss this even more. And I'm sure Anna would come back and would love to talk to you too.
Oh yeah.
So you got into it with the Toonami block. I'm very familiar with that because I was in high school when Sailor Moon came to Cartoon Network and to Toonami, and I like that's where I got my start too. Was I had people in high school, they were getting like videotapes traded to them from Japan. They would get people sending them stuff, and I'd see like the Japanese versions of shows, and then they brought it to America. It's like, oh, now I can finally watch it and understand what they're saying.
Oh my gosh. I remember the old Suncoast tapes going around and the weird dubs. That was a time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, what drew you to Sailor Moon? What was the thing that gave that hooked you?
Well, we definitely just talked about my transformation costume, and that was wow, that was totally it. Just the first time seeing an episode and watching Usagi pull out this little locket or brooch, I mean, depends on the dub, and these ribbons coming out and just the whole it was so elegantly done and the glitter and the pink there was nothing like it, there was nothing to compare until that moment. And then like 3 months later, I think Samurai Troopers, it was also on the Toonami block, and it was just like these 5 guys who had the exact same transformation. I was like, oh god, this is going to be the end of me, I'm never gonna not be into this. It was, yeah, there was just something, I think for a lot of people, there was like um, this really interesting tie between like the magical element and then a transformation. And it's not even like, you know, she's not turning into anything outside of herself. She's just getting a change of wardrobe, but that's somehow so empowering, and like these really cute little accessories that did so much badass damage. And it was just, I don't know, there was something really cool about that.
So you got into it through the Toonami block and through Cartoon Network. Did you continue watching it through that and like through like either like videotapes or following along with it? Did you fall out of the Sailor Moon fandom for a time and get back in? Like where did your journey go once you were in it to win it with the Toonami era? Like where did you go from there?
I think I was watching it once I was like hooked into the show. I was watching it religiously on Tsunami, and I think a couple of times they had like marathons because there was some rumor going around they were going to take it off air. And I think I was like begging my parents to record them on like during the marathon, record them all on VHS tapes so I could have them forever. And I still have them, but they're very old and the commercials are something.
Oh
And
my
then I
gosh,
think
that'd be awesome to see just the commercials from that time.
I think Moon Shoes comes up every 5 seconds. It's incredible. There's like a Hubba Bubba commercial that could not be more obnoxious. I think it was Toonami until they stopped airing. 4Kids, I think, was showing it either on weekends or really early on weekday mornings. And then at some point, it was on Adult Swim when they took it off of the Toonami block. And I was like, I've seen these before, but I'm going to stay up and just keep watching them. I love it. Can't get enough. I think by the time I hit middle school, they were just either not on air or not on a time slot where I could access them. But our
Hmm.
school library had like an issue of mixed comics that I just forgot to return one day, so it's still on my bookshelf. And it was kind of just rereading that for ages. And then at some point in high school, they had reprinted the manga in English. I guess I've always been a fan. It's just how accessible was the media to me at different ages, and how much could I balance that with school life?
I totally get that. Because there certain fandoms just it comes in waves, or it has to go on the back burner for a time, and then you get to jump back into it, and it's like, oh look, it's I remember this from my high school days or my middle school days, and then you're right back into it, and you got that the nostalgia feels again.
Absolutely.
When it comes to shows like these, and it's my typical question when it comes to Sailor Moon is who is your favorite Sailor Scout?
Ooh. Ooh. So I guess the the general answer would be most, if not all of them. But I think at different stages of my life, there's been like at least one that you gravitate towards a little bit more. And I guess from the whole lineup, it's really been Jupiter. I guess if I'm gonna say I can only pick one, it would have to be Jupiter. We looked really similar when I was younger. We had the same interests. I also had a bad habit of getting into schoolyard fights for a little while, and that wasn't a great rap. um, that was a time when you're young. But she was also like such a fantastic balance of being authentically herself and standing up for like her own beliefs and her friends, but also just like gosh, she had the worst taste in men and it was incredibly comedic. Like you had to kind of balance her out with something a little funny, and that was, of all the things to pick, hilarious to me. um I I just she's such a catch, but she's like, let me just keep going after guys where it's never going to work out. It didn't work out the first 20 times, but God, if I don't love a good chase. And it's like, girl, please. um, and I guess, I don't know, more recently, it's kind of a four-way tie. Absolutely love Jupiter still, but Moon, I mean, come on, she is the OG. Venus, because
Hmm.
it's Venus, and Sailor Uranus, because she's just, gosh, she's so darn cool. She's so cool. Who doesn't want to be rich and beautiful and like a race car driver? Come on.
It always amazes me because again, we both grew up watching like the Toonami stuff, right? And then when they introduced Uranus and Neptune, it was always like, oh, they're cousins. And then I remember bringing that up to my friend who had brought the stuff over from Japan, and he's like, yeah, they're not cousins. They're not cousins at all. It's like, what are you talking about? That they're clearly cousins. Like they're talking. No, they're not cousins. And I had to get that education real quick on that they are not cousins. But yeah, like it's always, I love finding out. It's always something with who you identify with as like your favorite Sailor Scout, because like mine was Mercury for like the longest time until I discovered like, oh, there's Pluto, and Pluto's really badass, and I really like, her staff, and she's not always around doing stuff, but she's like there, like, just I fell in love with her. But Mercury was like my high school crush of Sailor Moon characters.
Oh, that's just honestly refined taste. Mercury is so so cute, and I I feel like manga canon Mercury is just like a little spicy, and she's like, I'm very hardworking and I do all this stuff and I read. Don't ask me what I'm reading. I'm having a great time here. Girls, we can approach this in a very classy manner. And Pluto's just I feel like she doesn't get the hype she deserves so often. She's like, you're totally right. She's super badass. She's just very strong. She has a kind of tragic story, but she's also just kind of the cool mom friend. But she's also just out there like, okay, you guys don't need me right now. I'm gonna go live my life. I'll come back later. Don't mess it up.
Right? She just shows up when when everything's going to garbage. Is like that's when it's like Pluto's time to show up. It's like, okay, I'm here now. Let's work it out. Get it done.
Yeah. She really does the most.
She does a lot of work. She does a lot of work. As far as, do you still watch Sailor Moon? Because I know like there's Sailor Moon Crystal. I don't know if it's still going on or not. But like, are you into that? Are you like just into Sailor Moon like through like conventions? Like where is your fandom now with Sailor Moon? Like as far as like interacting with it, or like, I guess, consuming it.
That's a really good question. Um, I guess I don't know. Crystal, I've been really excited that there was a reboot. I think personally I was never a fan of the style. Um, I mean, I didn't dislike it, but I was so enamored with the nostalgic series style I had grown up with that seeing a newer one just felt like there was some disconnect. Definitely
Mm-hmm.
watched it. Never finished it. The newer movies, though, are really great. I've enjoyed those. I guess, um, oh gosh. Well, okay. Aside from the animes, I've actually super in love with the live action, like the PGSM series. I think I
Yes.
binge all of that at least once a year. That's that is its own box of fantastic. And the musicals, oh my gosh. I guess I definitely enjoy those a bit more now. You know, if I'm going through if I'm really stressed out from work in general and have like time in between stuff, I definitely come back to revisit the series. But I don't think I'm able to dedicate as much time into like enjoying the media as I used to.
Hmm.
I do still find a lot of time to read the manga though, and I don't know how that works out in the scheme of things. And I'm still kind of an avid collector. I think I've always somehow been a collector of just like weird merchandise and the wands because who can not? They're just gorgeous.
Exactly. Like the wands, I feel, are almost like for people that are into Star Wars and they collect lightsabers. Like the Sailor Moon wands are as iconic as the lightsabers for Star Wars. And I'd have them if I was a collector of stuff where I could display it. Like those wands would be pretty cool somewhere, like mounted and hung up so people can check them out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think I've got I don't know why I'm like this. I've got like the official ones and then I've bought like really cheap bootlegs strictly to play with. I'm always worried about playing with one of the Proplicas and like dropping it, but the $15 AliExpress ones that play Levin Polka from Vocaloid for whatever reason, those are fun.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you're still in it, whether it's watching the PGSM or the musicals or reading, because it's interesting that for a show like Sailor Moon, where it's not on constantly. Like it's not something where you can turn on the TV and like watch it, right? Well, and I guess nowadays with streaming, you can absolutely like just turn on a TV and watch it. Let me take back my words about that. Um, but it's not something where it's like where it's just on. People are like, oh, let's watch Sailor Moon today. Like that's kind of not how it exists, but the fandom keeps it going, and they, new people discover Sailor Moon. And I always talk about, like, whenever you go to convention, you're 9 times out of 10 you will always find like at least all of the inner scouts at some point,
Oh, absolutely. Can you even call it a convention if you don't? Is it really
right?
for
Like
anime fans?
exactly. So it's nice that for something that's not like technically on the air, so to speak, to that it continues to thrive and grow, and people discover it in their own ways, and that they get to experience the same things that like you experience with the way that you found it, and or through like reading the manga. And then they're like, what do you mean there's a whole live action series that's out there? And it's cool for new people to discover it. It's good. It's nice that this fandom continues to grow.
Absolutely. I think, oh gosh, I don't know how I glossed over this. In high school, we were like, how was Sailor Moon growing up over the years? I was like in my peak PGSM phase in high school, and there was a oh gosh, I think the girls basketball team I was on, there was just anytime we had an away game and we're all in a van, I was like watching episodes I had pre-loaded on my laptop, and it was just the whole back row of the van being like, "Who was that this week? That wasn't who we saw last week." I'm like, "Oh, it's no, it's a new girl." And they were like, "Who's the monster?" And I'm out here like, "I don't know yet. We're gonna find out." It was like a handful of girls on this team who weren't really into this series, but were like, "Is that Power Rangers?" And I'm sitting here like, "No, no, it's not. But you're close."
Yeah, I was teaching in Japan at the time when the live action was going on. So like you'd walk into department store into the toy section, and there would be like the live action merch. And it is just it's such a weird time to actually like have like a Sailor Moon show going on while I was over there. And it's like that's really cool. I dig like being able to see like cool looking merch and little figures and everything else right when it's happening.
Oh my gosh, that's so oh my god, you were living the dream.
I, I know, and I still like have all the fan subbed, fan the fan subbed episodes like downloaded on my computer somewhere, like every single one. Like the dance video that they did, so you could learn how to do the dance to the songs. And yeah, I am that person.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Those were great. There was a certain level of cheese with that show that made it so homey but not over the top. I mean, sometimes definitely, but oh wow. I love that. I think it was the Sailor Dream Live or something where they have like petticoats on with their fuku and they just oh my gosh, it was the cutest thing.
Oh my goodness. I'm always wondering like what's going to be the next thing that they do with Sailor Moon, like beyond, like obviously like they have Crystal and the movies that they've done, but it's like what will they do next? Like when will a Sailor Moon like movie come out, or when will they have like their own cinematic universe where they have like the Sailor Scouts, but then they introduce like other characters into it from other product or projects that they have over there. And it's like eventually, maybe one day we'll have that, as long as it doesn't get like Americanized.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that's a great goal. There were there's a much smaller work that Naoko did. I think it PQ Angels. It's kind of underrated, but that would have been like it's about like space cockroaches that turn into babes on Earth. It was, but they have to like kiss someone to turn into a babe and then back into a space cockroach, and it was incredible. And their costumes were like vinyl furry boa kind of Austin Power vibes, and it was like, wow, this would be a really good crossover with Sailor Moon actually because there's a lot going on here.
I'm gonna have to look that up after we finish recording because space cockroaches that turn into babes. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to look that up and just see what it is.
It's a really fun rabbit hole to fall into. There's not a crazy amount of media about it, but I for sure there's a few chapters of a one shot that are definitely worth your time.
Awesome. I will have to look into it. And listen, if you're out there listening and you know about this, email me, and so that way I can even learn more about it, just beyond the internet, because the internet can only tell you so much.
Absolutely. I'm sure there's probably some like lost media sleuth out there who's like, "Oh, let me tell you, there's way more."
Let me tell you all about the space cockroaches. Now, Anna, on top of Sailor Moon, you're also into something that I absolutely love, and that is Studio Ghibli movies. And Hayao Miyazaki and all the works that he's done. And I'm not going to ask you your favorite movie just yet, because I wanna make a comment that if people are on the Instagram, on the gram, as the youngsters call it, I just wanted to say that you have a Nausicaa costume, a Nausicaa cosplay that I absolutely love. I feel like Nausicaa doesn't get like a lot of love of the Ghibli movie cosplay stuff, and I just want to say thank you for cosplaying one of my favorite characters.
Ah, thank you. Gosh, thank you. She's she's also very, yeah. Oh man. I guess okay, that's a tangent for a couple of seconds from now.
So now that I've expressed my Nausicaa love, uh, I am going to ask you, like, what is your favorite Studio Ghibli movie?
Ooh, ooh. Oh gosh. I guess it's oh wow, they're all great. It's really hard to pick a favorite, but I guess the ones that have always stood out the most to me are Princess Mononoke and Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. They're just really they're beautiful, but there's definitely like returning themes with all of the Ghibli films, but these two they just really stood out for the whole everyone's fighting for something that they genuinely think is right, and everyone can be the bad guy for one perspective, but someone you can sympathize with from their own vantage point, and just
Hmm.
how things don't really get fully resolved because it's there's this whole idea of like it's not something one person alone can solve, but it takes generations of people all working towards the same goal to come to a mutual understanding across the board with. And I just thought those were so powerful, and these overtones of like it's not just about you and your families and this little town, it's about how you're affecting a greater whole, and like just the awareness of that I thought was really powerful and not something you see in a lot of animated films or like any films very regularly.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And those are two that really stand out on that spectrum of the themes that you're pulling out with, you know, the working towards something that not only affects the town that you live in, but like the multiple towns, or the continent, or the world. And it's definitely something that you see in both of them. um Dang, if I don't like Nausicaa. Like, that's the one that I came to late. Like, I didn't watch it until very, like, a lot, like, because I saw like Kiki, and I saw Totoro, and I saw Princess Mononoke, and Spirited Away. But then, like, I fell into Nausicaa somehow. Like, I think I had rented it at some point, and then, like, when I lived in Japan, I picked up like the manga set. Like, it's like 7 or 8 volumes of it, and it's like, I can't believe, like, this story, like, they took such a small fraction of the story for the movie, but there's so much more to it in the manga that you obviously can't fit. Like, it need to be like a multi season, TV show to fit everything that they were doing in it. But like between that and like Mononoke, it's like definitely has those strong themes running through, and it's also like in some, like with certain other movies where it's like a smaller version of like, you need to be able to be the ones to like affect the change and work like as a group together to do things a little bit better. But yeah, it's wonderful stuff, and I have to ask because it's especially with the two that you picked out, your two favorites, were those like the first ones that you were exposed to as far as Ghibli movies, or did you start with like Kiki's Delivery Service or My Neighbor Totoro as your first experience with it?
So that's a great question. Those were definitely actually films I had seen towards the end of Kiki's Delivery Service was definitely the first one I'd seen, and then Spirited Away, and then oh gosh, I think it was like 4 or 5 years later, Princess Mononoke. I don't know if it was like on HBO or something weird. I was at a friend's house and I was like, "Yo, I know I'm here to visit you. That's great. I need to watch this." Just very
Hmm.
rude, but it was so good. And I think later on, because I was not shutting up about this movie, my mom had found what she thought was like just the DVD for that, but it was like a bootleg pack of all of the Ghibli films. And I was like, wait,
Yeah,
what? And
yep.
a different disc had Nausicaa on it. And I was in love. The bugs, I just, the bugs, I can't get over how beautiful and scary and fantastic they are. And then Googling it, I think, was also how I found out about the manga, and it was wow, it's incredible. It's a masterpiece.
It absolutely is. It's something where, like, when I had stumbled across it, and even though I was paying exorbitant prices to pick all of them up, I had to have them, and it was something where you read it and you're just like you're immersed in that world even more so than from what you have in like the 2.5 hour movie that you get, and it's like, dang, like it's just really well done for, and especially like Nausicaa's old. Like Nausicaa's one of the first like Ghibli movies of the time. And it's like, dang, like for them to have been doing that all the way back, and now here we are, what, 40 something plus years later, 30 years later, and it's like still people talking about it.
Oh yeah. Wasn't that I'm probably mistaken. I'm I'm not as into the lore as I should be, but wasn't that I guess the studio's first official project or the second?
I think it might have been, or it is either that or maybe like I know they Miyazaki did like Lupin the Third, like Castle of Cagliostro, but I'm not sure if it was under like the Studio Ghibli banner at the time.
Oh right.
But
Yeah,
we don't have to go into like the technical stuff because
for sure.
you love the Ghibli movies, you love Mononoke, you love Nausicaa, you've watched Kiki. What's one of the ones, because there's a lot of Ghibli stuff out there that people don't know about. Is there one that you'd be like, hey, you know what? Maybe you've never heard of this movie and you should definitely watch it, because there's a number of them that I'm like in my head, I'm like running through my list of like what Ghibli movies should people check out that maybe aren't like the Kiki and the Totoro and the Spirited Away type movies. Like, do you have a favorite of like the smaller, less popular ones?
Oh gosh. Um,
Putting you on the spot.
definitely. That's always what gets me. Laputa, the castle in the sky is
Hmm.
incredible. It's got one of those Lupin car chase scenes that's just technically amazing, but to actually see how fluid it is in the film is just like kind of carries one of the bigger scenes that carries the film, but it's really beautiful. There's a running fan theory I have that's not holds no water at all, but it just seems like you know what, I'm not gonna get into that. Um, I'm sitting here like that's something I'll talk about for 2 hours, and literally no one asked. But, just Laputa for sure, if you haven't heard of it or seen it. Incredibly beautiful film, very touching, lots of action shots. And then Porco Rosso. I've had tons of friends that watch Ghibli films and haven't heard of it, and I'm like, look, I 2 words, flying pig. It's a great movie.
That one's on my list of movies where I'm embarrassed to say like I haven't watched it. I have HBO Max. I can watch it anytime, but I don't know why I haven't just been like, okay, I'm going to watch Porco Rosso now because it's one of those movies where everything lines up on what I would like to see, and yet I just haven't watched it. I need to.
Well, that's even better. You can see it with bright eyes the first time.
Exactly. In my elderly age here, I can see the Flying Pig movie.
Yeah, it's really good. I think it's one of my mom's favorites for sure. That in Totoro, she asks about all the time. She's like, "Hey, do you have time? Do you want to see that movie with the pig man again?" And I'm out here like, "Yeah, okay."
Of course, like any excuse to watch a Studio Ghibli movie, right? Like,
Absolutely.
we have a movie theater here where, but like pre COVID, so a couple of years ago, every year at least once a year they would do a Studio Ghibli movie, and they'd call it like the Sunday peanut butter matinee, and like the kids would get in free, and you'd order food because it's like one of those like smaller independent type theaters, and they'd show a Ghibli movie. So that's how they saw like Castle in the Sky and Kiki's Delivery Service and a couple others. But I own Princess Mononoke at the house, so I have it on like Blu-ray, and my kids are always like, "Can we watch it?" And I'm like, "No, you can't watch it just yet, um, because it is not like they're getting close enough to the age because they've started watching like horror movies and stuff like that with us watching it, but it's like Princess Mononoke is not like the Kikis and the Howl's Moving Castle and stuff like that. Like Princess Mononoke is kind of even when I saw it in theaters, I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe they're showing this. Like I was shocked,
Yeah, it's definitely not for younger kids.
but it's so good.
It is.
I do want to ask because again, Studio Ghibli, not only great movies, but they've got some great characters. Is there a character that you identify with, that you connect with? Whether it's like San or Kiki or any of the other characters. There's a bunch of characters. Nausicaa. Like, is there a character that you identify with more so, or is it more that you're here for everything? You're here for all the Ghibli all the time.
Oh, wow. I mean, I definitely love all the characters. Even the ones I dislike, you kind of love them in a very odd way. In terms of characters that I really identify with, Nausicaa, obviously. I think as a kid and even now, more so now, I've always liked bugs, and I'm like, oh, great, bug girl. San also she's very strong and super. She knows what she wants, and she's got a very strong moral compass that I think's incredible. But she's also working hard to change herself in the way that she sees shortcomings in. Sheeta from Laputa, I mean, she's just really cute. I just enjoy her personality. I guess also I'm listing like 20 characters here. I know you said one, but it's or not even.
It's
It's really
okay.
hard. I feel like because all the characters are so human, it's really easy to see different facets of yourself in them. But Ursula, also from Kiki's Delivery Service, the cabin artist girl,
Hmm.
she's like, oh man, I want to be an art bum who's just like living life. feeding birds, doing charcoal drawings out in the woods. Apparently, she doesn't have to deal with mosquitoes, so I would love to live that life.
That would be wonderful.
Right? I think they've each got something that I personally see in myself or different attributes that I'd like aspire to have. They're all just very human characters that I just think are really, really wonderful.
Absolutely. And but before we jump off the Studio Ghibli thing, and I know, listen, if you have listened to the podcast there, and I'm sure by the time this episode comes out, you'll probably have heard me say it before. Studio Ghibli movies have the best looking food of anything, anywhere, even real food. Like, real food holds no candle to Studio Ghibli food. Just give me the Ghibli food, please.
Definitely. Oh my gosh, the toast, or not, is it, well, I mean, toast is part of it. The breakfast in Howl's Moving Castle when they're like frying bacon and eggs and cheese on
Yep.
this really, oh my God, where are y'all getting bread like that? That's just, it looks so good.
I always think to spirit it away and like all the food that Chihiro's parents are eating and like how good like the ramen looks. I'm like, oh gosh, like give that to me.
Yes. I think there's like a steamed dumpling or something at one point, and like the stretch and pull it has, you're like, whoa, there's a lot of filling in that. And they're just they animate food so well, and it's just you really, really want it. I mean, you really want it. If they ever did food commercials, that would be a whole other gig.
Oh gosh, they would get sued for for misrepresenting like the food you actually get. Like even whenever my kids see like fast food commercials on TV and they're like, that's not how the food looks. And could you imagine if like Studio Ghibli's like, here's the food and you get it and it's like some sorry sack of something in like a cardboard container. You're like, robbed. I was robbed.
Yeah, it's gonna be a whole new battle frontier of Ghibli animation versus food stylists. You're gonna have like whole YouTube videos where they're like, "This is how that's not possible" from a professional food stylist. It's like, dude, come on.
Oh my goodness. Now, Anna, we've been scattering conversation throughout the episode today about what we're going to wrap up with, which is cosplay.
Yeah.
I found you because of your cosplay. I love your cosplay. You've done characters from both Sailor Moon and from Studio Ghibli movies in your cosplay repertoire. How did you how did you get into cosplay? Like, where did you get your start?
Ooh. Um. Well. Hmm. So my family, I guess I come from craftspeople, like traditionally. Uh, we used to be powwow vendors. So my dad had taught me at a really young age how to work with like leather and beads and just like how to craft professionally and have finished products. And my mom is comes from a pretty long line of like seamstresses. So when I was like old enough to hold a pen and pencil, she was giving me a needle and thread and like ribbon and scraps of fabric and teaching me how to hand embroider. Wasn't good for a very long time, but it was a skill that she was like, "Oh, you're gonna really enjoy this." And I think they just kind of built on themselves, and then there was like that revelation moment again, seeing the Sailor Scouts in Little Tokyo, and I was like, "Whoa, that's a thing! That's incredible!" And then I just kind of keeping up with handcrafts until like late high school, and a friend was like, "Have you ever cosplayed?" And I'm sitting out there like, "What is that?" And it was the whole introduction to like people do this outside of Halloween, and they go places to meet other people who do this outside of Halloween. And I was like, "Say no more, buddy. I'm on it." um, so it's definitely I think the making like the want to make stuff has always been pretty prevalent in my life, but then learning that I could mix that with media that I was already really also into was just like the magic moment for me.
That's really awesome, especially like the family ties to like crafting in general and like the needlework and sewing and stuff like that. Like that's really awesome to like learn those skills and have that like as a foundation and just something that's going to stay with you for like your entire like whenever you do cosplay. It's like it just goes back to all like goes all the way back to that. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate that it's something that my parents instilled with me that was like, I feel fortunate that I was in a family that had that skill set and that I can kind of keep it ongoing, but under my own terms and in a way that they kind of don't understand but are happy that at least I'm doing something that's like still crafty. I know when I started, I think my parents were like, "How short are these skirts that these sailor girls are wearing?" And I'm like, "Look, they're drawn. We aren't gonna get into this." But yeah, I think after like a year or two of really dedicating it and like them seeing the little fire I had in my gut to make clothes that anime characters wear, they were like, "This is great. Keep this up. Have you thought about doing this?" And I'm like, "Yes."
That's awesome. And I do have to ask because you know I like to scroll through people's Instagrams that I invite on just to see like different fandoms or how far back people go or you know what they have. You did you hand make that Mononoke mask, the San mask?
Yes, I did. It was actually, I think, my first time working with like sculpting anything to that degree. But yeah, that was handmade. I think my dad was okay. This is another short tangent, but like, Mononoke's mask is really similar to a kind of Kachina doll that you see in like Southwest indigenous work a lot, and it's like a mud woman doll, but they look identical, and we had a bunch of those dolls already, so like I had reference, and it was just modeling after them and then explaining to my dad like 40 different times that no, this was not a Kachina mask, this was for an anime character, and he was like, "What are you on?" And then for a while he thought it was like balsa wood or something, and I'm sitting there like this is paper mache and paper clay from Daiso and a lot of paint. But yeah, that was handmade.
That it looks really good. And then you had a chrono life clock, I believe. I have it in my notes. I couldn't find when I was scrolling. I couldn't figure out what it specifically was, but I was like, oh, that piece looked cool too.
Yeah, that
Uh,
was oh my gosh. I think it's like a gum container. It was literally a bunch of stuff from a recycling bin and hot glue. But it
the
worked.
secrets of cosplay exposed.
Oh yeah. It's most of the stuff is literally trash with paint on it, but if no one can tell when they're looking at it, you've done a good job.
That is a great thing to have right there. Is if they can't tell, they don't know about it.
Absolutely. It's the what do they call it? The 5 foot rule. If it looks good from where you're taking a picture, don't worry about it.
That's a good rule to have. I'll have to keep that in mind. When it comes to your cosplay, like how do you choose like the characters that you want to either like create or dress up as? Like is it characters that you connect with? Is it characters that you love the costume design? Is it a mixture of both? Like where do you fall with your character choices?
Ooh, I think it's definitely a mixture of both. Usually, I have a hard time wanting to dedicate like my time and resources on a character I have like no emotional connection with, so that definitely has to be there. But also, sometimes you really like a character and you just feel bad that they're dressed the way they are, so you have to kind of pass or make adjustments on their costumes. So I definitely there's that sweet spot of a character I'm emotionally connected to. I think they're either really cool or they were just, you know. They're fun. But they've also got to have a costume that's like either very cute or something that I think would be challenging to figure out, which is kind of a, I don't know, a little bit of a self-sabotage pick there, but that comes up more often than it should.
Now, I had a question because people do you connect with certain Sailor Scouts like Jupiter, and you do Jupiter, but you've also Dune. You connect, you have Sailor Jupiter, but you've also done Venus, and you've done Sailor Moon, and I believe you've done Uranus at some point, possibly.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Um, is it hard for you to switch, like, doing those characters to go from like one to the other? Is it like a mental mindset where you're like, okay, I'm going to be Sailor Moon now, and then you get into like the moon mindset? Like, is that even a thing? Am I just creating something that has no bearing whatsoever with cosplay?
No, I think you're, well, I guess for me anyway, I think you're definitely bringing up a point that I grapple with a lot. There's actually, well, this, I don't know, I don't mean to make this sound sad. I feel like half the senshi that I really enjoy, I don't like how I look in costume for them. I don't think, in terms of my own headcanon, I kind of struggle with, I don't look how I think they should, but I also enjoy the character and I just have to kind of get over that part. And it's kind of compensating for areas where it's like, well, I like them. I can't fully get into their mindset, but that's also why I like them so much, is because they are so different and they are all these things, and it becomes like a fake it till you make it just to enjoy it more. But it's definitely difficult. I think Jupiter and Uranus are easier to do. Venus is kind of a middle ground. Moon is just like so different from everything else, and I just feel like she's very cute and bubbly and all these other things. So I'm just sitting there like, you know what? When you're in costume, you are her, and just kind of don't worry about the other parts that you can't really do anything about. But it's definitely something I think I grapple with more than I should.
I gotcha. I gotcha. I didn't know if that was a thing, like, because I see there's certain cosplayers I follow, and they go through like all the senshi, or a number of them, and obviously there's the different posing or the different facial expressions and the way the hair is done, or the makeup and stuff of that nature. But then I I know that there's got to be like some level of like acting and getting into that mental space of that character to, like, as you said, like, fake it till you make it on some of them. And it's like, dang, like, it's just something I see, and it's like, I don't know, like, how people pull it off sometimes doing that.
Absolutely. I've got so much respect for Sailor Moon cosplayers that can do like their repertoire is all of the senshi, and I'm sitting there like from head to toe, the costume, the styling, the makeup's there, but also just how they carry themselves is so incredible. It's definitely a skill set I aspire to work towards more, because it's, let me tell you, if I'm dressed up as Sailor Moon, mentally I'm like a static screen, because the second someone's like, "Oh, can I take your photo?" I have to really work to remember what her poses are beyond the like little monologue like pointing thing or like holding up the moon wand is just, I don't know. It's odd. It's definitely an odd problem to have.
No, and I wanna ask, because there's obviously a character that we've talked about, which is Nausicaa, and
Mm.
I made mention, love your Nausicaa cosplay. Um, Navajo Nausicaa, no, Navajo Nausicaa is a cosplay you created back, like, 2020-ish time period. What was your inspiration for doing that style of a Nausicaa cosplay?
Ooh, this is a little bit of a long story, but I, well, the cultural aspects, I'm Mexican Indian. There's like a, I'm mixed with a bunch of different things, but my dad was Navajo, so it's kind of always been there. I'm not, my siblings all have like cultural regalia, but I was always more of the crafts person in the family. I wasn't like I had never gotten into the actual practices, but it's something I really wanted, or like the textile practices. It's something I always wanted to get into, but just felt awkward engaging with. But the more I got into cosplay, it was something I kept feeling a stronger pull towards. And one of my professors actually in university, because they knew I had this hobby and they were very supportive of it, had seen some ad on the IA webpage. I There had been another indigenous maker, Desba, who did indigenous cosplay. She mixed like her own heritage with all these other incredible characters, and I was just in love at the spot. I didn't know people were doing this. It opened a whole new door of seeing that there were other people who tied in their culture with characters that they liked. I think there was like, I'm forgetting the artist, which is terrible, but there's a really beautiful illustration of an Aztec Wonder Woman that was just like incredible. And those things kind of stuck with me over the years.
Hmm.
And Nausicaa had also been a project. She took 5 years. She shouldn't have taken that long, but it was, I feel like fabric choices, nothing felt right. The details I wanted to make, nothing felt right. And after seeing like Desba's work and other makers' work, I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. This is the spark. This feels right. So it was just pulling different elements culturally that I thought lent themselves well, and then noticing all these parallels between the story of Nausicaa, who she was, who her fictitious culture was, especially in the manga. The worm handlers were a big inspiration there. If you guys haven't read the manga, you need to, because they're incredible. But these whole, yeah, I think a lot of that inspired it, and then there's also this whole understanding of like world building through cosplay, because like you can make something that looks identical to what you see in a drawing. Like you can match the colors, you can get fabrics that'll sit the same way, you can, match every detail down to a T. But what's always really interested me in cosplay is that materials and techniques really translate to like what you expect in this world setting. So like what kind of material technologies would be available in Nausicaa's setting? And if I was to imagine her as indigenous, what would those be like? What other things would cross over there? And that kind of really fleshed her out immediately and just made everything seem like a really good fit. Yeah. She's definitely a labor of love and probably one of my most favorite costumes I've ever made. I'm really excited to wear her out somewhere and hopefully find like other indigenous nerds who are just like, "Oh my god, you're Nausicaa, but you've got this from this. Do you know what that means?" It's like, "Yeah, dude, I'm from there. Let's geek out."
That is really awesome, and I hope that you're able to connect and find people that do the similar same things that you do with cosplay. I actually had stumbled across that, and this is totally off tangent and not related, but I had stumbled across an artist that does I guess like they take Studio Ghibli characters, but they make them indigenous, or they make them not they have the different style. I believe I'm not sure. Yeah, it's a she. Her name's Chelsea. She's Ojibwe, I believe, and it's like ODE period AKI, but she really just does like revisions of like the characters with like native dress, and it's so fascinating to look at and see the characters and see how represented in different styles and cultures. And I think it's so cool that people are doing it with cosplay too.
Absolutely. There's, especially over the last year or two, I've definitely noticed an influx of like indigenous artists making Ghibli characters. There's so many that are doing Sailor Moon art, and I'm like, my wallet can't take it. Every time they sell prints, I cannot stop buying their prints. But it's incredible. I'm really excited to see like these cultural bridges being made and also just how it like forms the landscape of fandom because I feel like well, it's kind of hard or it used to be harder to find other people in communities that were interested in like anime because it never came up super often, but now it's like it's a lot easier to do when everyone's getting excited and people are like, you know how they did this, don't they look like they should have done this, couldn't you imagine them in these kinds of moccasins? You're like, dude, I love it, yes, where have you been, I'm so happy.
Exactly, and it's all about that representation, and I'm so happy for people that are doing like the artwork or the cosplay and stuff, and it's like be the representation I guess you want to see, and that way other people, especially like younger kids or people that are like seeing the artwork or seeing cosplay like out there, and it's like they're able to see themselves like through like the creations that are being created now, and it's so wonderful that people have taken these characters and just put that spin on them, put their culture and heritage identity into them to make them their own. Like they're still that character but in a totally different like way at this point, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think there's definitely something exciting on like the horizon of cosplay because there's more people pushing to integrate like things they're familiar with, things they recognize, and it's like a whole other layer of Easter eggs that other people can appreciate or they can take pride in explaining and sharing with people. And I really love seeing it.
Now, Anna, one of the big questions that I always ask, one of the big questions that I always ask my cosplayer guests is, everyone's got a list. They always tell me that they have a list. And I'd love to know, like, are there any particular characters that are on your list that you are either working on or that you want to cosplay as, this year, next year? Like, what's on your list for future cosplays?
Ooh gosh. I'm uh I'm finally hitting my like hmm, well, let's just say after almost a decade of dressing as Sailor Scouts, I'm finally hitting my Bishonen phase. I've just decided no one else is gonna dress up as my 2D boyfriend, so I guess I've got to do it. It just has to happen. I can't keep waiting any longer. Someone's got to do it. Um, so there's a lot of Yu Yu Hakusho on the way, specifically Kurama. I I don't. He's a wonderful character. He's definitely got style. Somehow, this boy dresses like the lights are never on in his house. But I know he owns a mirror because his hair is perfectly styled, so that's what it is. I'm making a lot of very ugly outfits for that one. Uh, and oh gosh, what else? Oh man, I think I've got some more Sailor Moon costumes for sure. I have a Princess Uranus dress to make. I've got an updated Serenity gown to finish whenever I decide I want to tackle all that fabric. That's kind of what's on the horizon.
Okay. Well, definitely am excited to keep following you on your Instagram and seeing what you put out there. And speaking of Instagram, and for those that have listened and are interested in checking out your work or seeing what you do, what are some of the best places that people can go to check out your work, what you do on the internet?
Oh gosh. Well, yeah, they can definitely find me under my handle, Lucero Cosplay. And I've also got a sewing blog. It's slowly being updated, but I'm trying to explain more of like how I get things made and like the process behind like planning them on a sewing blog, and it's just called Lucero's Sewing Corner. If you Google it, it should come up. Um, yeah.
Okay. Well, I will have the links to all of your social medias in the show notes and on the Facebook page and website. So if you're listening and you want to check out Anna's work, just click on the links. Make sure you drop her a follow, comment on the pictures or share or like or whatever you do to fight the algorithm, because the algorithm is evil and likes to hide people. But Anna, I want to say thank you for taking the time out of your schedule and day to come and hang out with me and talk some of your favorite fandoms, because I have had an absolute pleasure getting to listen to your wonderful stories.
Oh, thank you so much, David. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate being on.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/talesfromthefandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.